Okay, we're back. Now we're going to go over the UVing process. I've saved this scene. You can see up here, saved it to block model simple coffin.blend. And another thing that you might want to look at is how many triangles does the object actually use. It's currently using 28. In the last video, well, the one before last, I pointed out that you have to triangulate your objects before you bring them into a game engine. This one is still not triangulated. They're easier to work with as regular polygons without triangles everywhere. So I only do the triangulating right at the end. So now to add UVs to this coffin, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here. There's different sort of views that you can have. And I'm going to select the UV editing view. So here I am in the UV editing view. And now what I want to do is I want to say, if I had pieces of paper covering the whole coffin, like this is how I think about it. If I had to cover the coffin with wrapping paper, where would the paper be cut so that I could wrap it effectively? So I think in this case, and this is kind of a gut feel thing, it takes some experience UVing a lot of objects before you feel comfortable doing it. But in this case, I think I'm going to have one area be the cover of the coffin, and I'm going to have two strips for the sides of the coffin. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into my edge mode, and I'm going to select all the edges under this lid area. And then I go here to the Shading and UVs tab and I say Mark Seam. So now you get this red seam. So that's going to tell Blender that you want the cover to be one piece. And now for this bottom part, I'm going to add a seam here and here. So what that's going to do is it's going to make the two sides of the coffin two strips. So you'll have one strip going around the back and one strip coming around the front here. So 3 pieces in all. So if you had 3 pieces of wrapping paper, you could wrap the coffin with them. I will mark those seams as well. So now I have my seams marked. And the next step is to come here and say unwrap. But before you unwrap, you have to say, what are you going to unwrap? And in this case, I want to unwrap all the faces. So I'm going to select face mode. I'm going to select everything with the A key. So now I have all the faces selected. And I'm going to come here. I'm going to say unwrap. And we get our 3 pieces. Now, just looking at these 3 pieces. So that piece there corresponds to this side here. If I select that, it's hard to see if that's the top or the bottom. And let's see here. That piece corresponds to this side. That's fine. And then the top of the coffin is kind of obvious because it has exactly the same shape as the model. I kind of like to align these things. I don't like when they're crooked. So what I'll do is I'll just sort of grab these edges, and under the UV menu here, there's a weld align section. So I can do align auto and see it makes this line straight. So I'm going to do the same thing with this line here. Hit W to bring up this little mini menu. Align auto. Align auto. Align auto. And I can do the same thing for the lines in the middle to align them to the y-axis. I'm going to grab this island and I'm going to move it to the top here. Grab this island, I'm going to put it underneath. And I'm going to grab this guy and put it in the middle here and scale it up a bit. The bigger you can make your pieces, the better it is, because it gives you more place to draw in detail. If the texture was really, really big, it's a little bit less of a concern, but with cubic textures, we try to keep them pretty small because there's only a limit to how many textures you can fit on a mobile device, and we can run out of textures. So we try to use the minimum possible to make the object look good. I'm going to come in here and align these as well. And this one. There's probably a faster way to do this. This is where not being a Blender expert matters. Maybe there's a way to select a whole bunch of them and have them all align at once. I don't really know. So I'm just doing it kind of the dumb way that I know how to do it. Anyway, this is a reasonably good UV because you can come into Photoshop and paint on a picture that looks like this. So how am I going to know if I go into Photoshop when I'm painting on this cover, like that I'm at the right spot and all that? So the way to do that, you can come here to this UV menu, and at the top you'll see there's a thing called Export UV Layout. So you click on that, and then I'm going to go to my desktop, and I'm going to save Simple Coffin UV.png. Export UV Layout. So now, if I go to my desktop, you can see here I've got this PNG file that has the UVs showing on it. So I can use this as a guide to paint on in Photoshop. This guide is 1024 by 1024. There was an option to set that in Blender. The textures in Cubic are actually a lot smaller, but what I do is I'll paint big, and then after the drawing and painting and texturing is done, I'll shrink the texture, and I'll try different sizes to see, at what point I'm starting to lose too much detail and I need to stop shrinking. I think that's enough for this second video. So in the next one, I'll actually do the texture painting in Photoshop.